Greetings, this is Jim Lindsay. This is the conclusion of the Chapter 6 lesson. This is part 3 of 3. And what we're going to do is talk about the material presented from page 275 to the end of the chapter. And we're going to be learning about how to create reports, run reports that are based on the data that you've supplied to a drawing through all the stuff that you learned about in parts 1 and 2 of from chapter 6. And so this is this is where you get to reap the benefits of all that work that you've done from parts 1 and 2 of creating shape data and populating it, linking to data sources, maintaining the data sources. This is where the benefits come in, because you're starting to now run reports that tell you about what's in those shapes. And so how does this work? Well, we're going to work with this. We have the chapter 6 files, and this HR process map E is what we'll work with. So I'm going to open that up, and it contains all the data that we need. We don't need the external data window anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. And where we want to work from is we want to work from the review tab. And I'm going to go ahead and maximize that to make it a little bigger. We don't need the shape data window open anymore either. We'll zoom in just a touch so you can see that flowchart. You're very familiar with that flowchart at this point. I'm going to go to the review tab, and on the review tab there is a button called Shape Reports, and the Shape Reports button is in the Reports area of the review tab. And so first what they want to teach you, and this is on pages 275 for many pages, all the way to page 280, from 275 to 280. They just want you to see what a report is, and on top of what a report is, they want you to understand that reports can be created in a number of different formats. And so let's do that. It's very easy, it's very fast. You click on Shape Reports, and because this is a flowchart, automatically the flowchart type of report is available. And here is a description of what that is included in a flowchart report. Also, there's an inventory report that is available because we put stuff onto our page, and so we can run this inventory report. There are additional pre-built reports that we could run. If we uncheck this box right down here, it shows you a whole bunch of other stuff that we potentially could run. I'm going to check that box again, and we'll just use the flowchart report. Again, at this point, all I want you to do is just to understand that to run a report, you go to the review tab, you click on the Shape Reports button, and then you select the report you want to run, and then you hit Run. And in doing so, it then prompts you, says, okay, I'm going to run a report. What is the format for the output? How do you want to use this? Well, do you want it as Excel? Do you want it as HTML? Or do you want it as a Visio shape or XML? We'll first just do it with Excel. We'll do Excel and we'll do Visio. We'll do those two. So I'm going to choose Excel, hit OK, and it basically creates an Excel file for me. And if I maximize that and looked at it, this is, you'll see like the status, owner, function, start date, end and cost. That's all field data that we created while working with that file, as well as the displayed text. That's the stuff that's typed into the boxes and the shapes on the page. These are the types of shapes that were used. That's the master name for those shapes, and here's a count and a total for us. And so this is an example of what a report might look like. This is the Excel version of it. I'll go ahead and close that, and I won't save it. I'm not worried about saving it. I'm going to run that report again. This time I'm going to do it as a Visio shape. Go to Shape Reports, and this time I'll just do the inventory report. So I'm going to run the inventory report. That's what's included in it. Tells you the number of shapes on the page, they're grouped by their shape name. I'll run that one. It'll say, how do you want to look at the results for this? I'll make this one a Visio shape, and 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10 in this class, I'll ask you to create a Visio shape report and use it how I'm about to show you. So I'm going to get a Visio shape, hit OK, creates the report for me, and there's my result. So as I zoom into the page here, there is one database shape, one decision shape, 3 document shapes, 13 dynamic connectors, 7 processes, and 2 start and end. So those are my, and that's essentially a little table that's been put together. I can cut that, so with that selected, I'm just going to Control X and cut that. I'm going to go to a new page, and I'll paste that on that new page. And most of the time when I ask you to run reports in your homework assignments, it'll be the same sort of thing. I'll say, hey, you have here's a network diagram, and here's, you have 3 different locations at your company. Here's Las Vegas, San Diego, and Houston, Texas. And I want to see reports that show this, this, and this in particular areas. So run those 3 reports, and then once you've gotten your results, take those results from the 3 different locations and put them all on one page. And how you do that is you'd go to the respective pages of your drawing, create the reports, run the reports, and then output that report as an Excel file. As a Visio shape, and then cut it just like we did a second ago, and then paste it to this page of the drawing called reports. You could like right click here and rename that page of your drawing reports. And so as I grade your work, I know that on the reports page, that's where the reports for Las Vegas, San Diego, and Houston are supposed to be located on this page. So that's how you run a report. Now, 99 times out of 100, you're going to want to run your own report, not a pre-built report. So how do you make a report? And that's described for you on the subsequent pages in the rest of the chapter, from page 281 to the end of the chapter. That goes into the details here. Let's do that. So I'm going to click on a shape report here. I want to make my own report. It's going to tell me information. Basically, I'm going to ask a question of Visio, and I want Visio to perform what's called a query, or ask a question of its data. And the query is through. I'm not going to have to write SQL. That's the query language. But what's happening in the background is through my creation of this report here, Visio is going to create an SQL query of the Access database, and it's going to return the answer for me. So it's pretty neat what's happening in the background. It's a really friendly process that we're completing, but in the background, it's doing some pretty advanced stuff for us. And if you've taken CIS 243 and worked with Access databases before, this should feel really comfortable and really familiar because you've done this in Access for yourself. So that's what we're doing. So I'm going to click on New. I'm going to make a new report. And what is the report for? Well, it's for the shapes on the current page. So I'm going to hit Next. And then I have to tell it what to include in this report. And in our report, we want to include displayed text. And we also want to, as you can scroll down here, you'll recognize these guys. These are things that you have been working with over the last, throughout this entire chapter. We also want the owner, process number, start date. So we want the owner, process number, start date. We also want the status. And I think that's it. So those are basically the fields that we want to do a query of from our drawing. And I hit Next to go to the next screen. At this next screen, I get to do several things. I'm first going to give this a name. I'm going to call this the HR report. All right, and next what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the sorting where it says Group By part of this page, of this interface. I'm going to click on Sort. And as it gets results, I want it to present the results in a specific way. I want it to sort its results by process number. So, for whatever answers it adds, to my question, I want the process numbers to, so if there's like a 101, a 102, and a 103, I want it to show up as 101, 102, 103. I don't want 103 at the top. I want it, behind 101 and 102. That's what that sort by does. And because it's in ascending order, it's going to do that for me. I also would like for process number to be the first column on the left, and so I'm going to move that up. So process number is going to be the first column on the left for my result. and then whatever is typed as the displayed text, and then the owner, and then the start date and the status. So the rest of that looks fine to me. You can move things up or down through this, move up or down, but that's how you control that. I hit OK. There are other things like subtotaling and formatting that you can work with, and when you get into CIS 243, if you haven't already had that, you'll get to where you can be a GWiz pro on those things, because those are very powerful tools. So I'm going to hit next, and this is basically about the last screen that we face. I want to type in some descriptions here so I know how to, so I can reference this a little bit later. This is my HR custom report. Let me pause this one. Okay, so I've typed in what I want the name to be as well as a description of it. So when I bring up the shape report, window in a moment, let's say it's 6 months from now and I've forgotten exactly what's in the HR custom report, I could look at the description and it would tell me. I'm going to save this report in the drawing, and whereas I could also save it into a file. Let's say you had like a system where you use some sort of like file sharing system, and a whole bunch of people were working on drawings together. In that case, it might make sense to save the reports to a file, and then people could reach out to the file and run those reports on any number of drawings as needed. But for us, for this class, we're going to always save our stuff into the drawing itself. And I'll hit finish. So now my report is done. You'll see I can still run a flow chart or inventory report or this HR custom report, and there's my description for it that you saw a second ago. So what does it look like when you run it? Well, I'll hit run, and I'll make the result a Visio shape. Takes it a moment, and there's my result. Move that up to where it's not quite so large. As I zoom in there, hopefully you're doing this on your computer too, you'll see there's a bunch of blank stuff, and this part down here is pretty much what I want. I want these guys down here, but I also have all these connectors, right? And so like all these different arrows connecting all the shapes, and that's what you're seeing with all these empty lines here, because there's not displayed text on those. You do have like the no and a yes, so you see those two guys, but you have some text boxes on there, so you see like the text box there. You have the end shape, you have the start shape. So that's what we're seeing here is the in addition to the things I want to really include in the report, all these other additional boxes. And so what I want to do as a last step here is modify this report just slightly so that it only shows these guys and not, it doesn't include like the connecting arrows and text boxes and like start and end boxes. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to take that report shape and just delete it, and I'll go back to my shape reports button. Again, step-by-step instructions for this are included in your book. So I'm moving through it at a pretty good clip, but you can always come back to this. So hopefully you've read it first and now this is starting to make sense. But I'm going to take that HR custom report and I'm just going to modify it. I'm going to click on modify. And at this point I'll click on the advanced button from the very first screen, because I still want to run it on the shapes on this page, but from the advanced interface here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, hey, if a process number, because these are the fields included in our drawing, right, or potentially in the shapes of our drawing. So I'm going to say a process number has to have a value. If a process number doesn't have a value, then it's going to be one of those connecting lines, or like the title of the drawing, or like the starting or ending shape. So that's how I exclude those guys. So I'm going to say the process number has to be greater than 0. I'm going to add that as criteria for our report. Hit OK. And what that's doing is in the SQL that's being generated by Visio for the Access database, it's going to then leave out the stuff we don't want. So I'll hit next, and basically just next and go the rest of the way through it. So now it has that new criteria in there. I'll run it again, get the result as a Visio shape, and our result should be what we want. There you go. I'll zoom in here so you can see it. That is the result that I wanted. And you can see like the process number is the far left column because of how I sorted it and displayed it, and then we left out all the other empty the connecting lines and all that good stuff. But that is the process for modifying a report. So hopefully, hope you've enjoyed this. This is this is heavy stuff. We aren't just drawing maps anymore. We're working with an Access database at this point. So we're doing heavy hitting at this point. So please contact me if you have questions. Again, you have the step-by-step instructions in the book. You've seen it. Hopefully, you've done it for yourself. The way that this makes sense is that you do it. It's just like we've said before. If you want to get good at free throws in basketball, you go out in the driveway and you just shoot and shoot and shoot. And so, practice this yourself. Get to where you're good at it. What I will do is I will ask you to create custom fields for shapes and drawings, and then I'll ask you to run custom reports that report on that custom data, and that's how I'm going to test you on this. That's how I will make sure that you are mastering this skill. I'm going to ask you to do it. So make sure you're going through these examples and learning how to do it, and contact me with questions. Thanks a lot.